Okay, one of the worst feelings that you can get when you're following your subject during surveillance is that gut-wrenching feel once you spot a patrol car. We all get nervous when we're driving down the highway and we see the patrol car pulled over clocking everybody. It's just natural. We just automatically glance down, take a look at our speedometer, and make sure that we are within the legal limits and adjust accordingly. But when you're on mobile surveillance, you are in chase mode. You are at a huge disadvantage to your subject as you have no idea where he's going, what exit she's going to take, or how fast they will drive. It also always feels like the subject of your investigation drives like a madman. I mean, man, they always take off faster than all get out. They're always weaving in and out of traffic. They always make sudden turns and lane changes without signaling. Or, at least, it seems to feel that way. Now, after all of these years of conducting surveillance, I have come to the conclusion that yes, indeed, some of my subjects do drive in very erratic and unsafe manners. However, most drive fairly normally. It just feels that way with all of the factors at play. Once the chase begins, the adrenaline is flowing, the heart is racing, and the tunnel vision begins. All you see is the car you are following, and you are always reacting to their actions. All of these things combined make it difficult, to say the least. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. The first thing that you need to do to make sure your follows remain safe and eventless is to make sure you are prepared for the follow. There is nothing worse than sitting in your surveillance vehicle waiting for the subject to do something, anything. You have your cell phone out. You're making arrangements with your spouse for a nice dinner out this evening, and then, boom, all of a sudden you see your guy's car pulling out of the driveway and heading down the street. Oh my goodness, you start your car, you throw it into gear, you yell, "Sorry babe, I gotta run." You throw your phone over on the passenger seat and off to the races you go. This, folks, is a recipe for disaster to be sure, and I know from experience. In my first year of conducting surveillance, this was almost the exact scenario that I found myself in. I was out on a rural town workers' comp case just waiting for the subject. This was probably case number 9 or 10 for me, so I was still very green as a PI. There I was, sitting there, waiting, and waiting some more. I had started about 6 o'clock that morning, and it was about 12:15 in the afternoon. I was sweating to no end. I was dying inside of my hot car, and I was just passing the time playing some mindless game on my laptop. Now, this was the days before smartphones, 3G, 4G, and all the other Gs and all the free Wi-Fi out there. I always had my laptop with me so I could write up reports in the car. I also used it from time to time to help pass the time on these long, boring cases. Sometimes I would even stuff one of those red boxes and get me a DVD movie to watch. Yeah, I know. I broke every rule in my own rule book on how to conduct surveillance properly, but then I hadn't written up my own rule book yet. At that time, I was just trying to figure it all out. So I guess I can probably forgive my younger self for making those mistakes early on. Now, the solitaire game was going good. I had won about 10 or 12 games in a row. Then, boom, there's my guy. He's entering his car. I barely got a few seconds of video as he closed the door. I tossed a laptop over to the passenger seat. I put my seatbelt on. I straighten my seat up. I start my car, and away I go. Now, in most cases, it should take you about 2 to 3 seconds to get going, but it probably took me 10, 15, maybe 20 seconds. Not much difference, but that is enough difference that once I got on the highway, he was a good half mile or more ahead of me with multiple cars in between us. To top things off, my nice new shiny laptop, which way back then weighed about 15 pounds, this huge thing was flying all over the place over there. Nothing like a good distraction on a crazy follow to make things even worse. At this point, I'm really worried. I know once he hits the metro area, there's no chance for me to catch up to him with all of the traffic lights. I am a professional. I start passing cars. I'm catching up. There, I made it past the last car between us. My subject is still about a half mile ahead of me, and I gun it. We approach this little town. I see him slowing down. He hits his brakes. I see a red light in front of him. I am like, this is my chance. I can finally get caught up, but I have to make that light when it turns green, so I keep the speed up. Then all of a sudden, I notice this nice police officer sitting in a shiny new patrol car with his window down, smiling right at me, sitting next to this shiny yellow sign with a flashing yellow light on top that says school zone. 25 miles per hour. Then I see this nice police officer turn on his lights, hit his siren, and pull in right behind me. Yep, nothing like a good distraction on a crazy follow, folks. Now, I explained to the officer what I was doing. I explained my situation, and he was very interested in it. He asked me a lot of questions. Then he asked me for my driver's license and my proof of insurance, and he proceeded to write me a nice $250 ticket. Now, he did lower my speed on the ticket from 45 in a 25 to 34 in a 25, so I wouldn't get hit so hard. But man, I made less than $200 for that day on surveillance. So not only did I lose my guy, I lost a lot of money too. Had I been paying attention from the get-go, folks, this most likely would never have happened. I would have probably been right behind my subject the entire time, going the same speed as he was, and he was obeying all of the traffic laws. He knew where the school was, probably. He probably knew where that cop might be sitting and clocking everybody. And I sure should have known it too. I should have seen it ahead of time, but I was locked in on my tunnel vision. So what do you do when the cop pulls you over while you are out on surveillance, you ask? You treat the traffic stop like any other traffic stop. Let's be real, folks. When the cops pull you over, you usually know why they're pulling you over. There is no reason to go all drama on them. Just listen to them, do what they ask, provide them the info they need, get your ticket, and move on with your day. Now, when I saw that officer pulling me over, I knew there was probably no way that I was going to ever catch up to my guy at that point. I tried to quickly explain to the officer what I was doing and who I was. I gave him a business card, and I told him what car I was following, and I hoped that he was just going to let me off with a stern warning. Hey, kudos to the officer for doing his job. Anybody can make up a good story at any time. For all he knew, I could have been stalking somebody. I could have been running from the police in another jurisdiction. He did the right thing, and he even tried to help me out a little bit, even though it all hurt very much at the time.